Hi, and welcome to a long overdue This Old Fag. How are you? I hope you've been well. I've been a bit up and down myself, but all in all, okay. And I thought maybe I might have been done with all of this recently. But guess what? I'm not. I hope you all had a good Pride Month and a happy 4th of July. It's a holiday I don't particularly like, especially even more so these days, since we seem to have lost track of what this country is about. Excuse me, I have to take care of that. Exactly. We find ourselves at the moment in a peculiar place with two old white men, both running to be president. One who is definitely demented and wants to tear down everything that this country represents. And another one who may have some cognitive issues because of age and so on. Why suddenly Biden's age and ability has become such an issue, I blame totally at the feet of the fucking New York Times. And there's a moment, I haven't really defined the exact moment when the New York Times became the fucking New York Times. I think it's around the time that New York Magazine died. But there is a dividing line. And so the New York Times was once an interesting paper that dealt with not only our local news, but national and international news, being part of the International Herald Tribune kind of group there. The New York Times that I remember growing up with had filler articles, little interesting bits at the end of a column where they had some space, where they tell you the story about how the people waiting for their methadone that day all ran after the truck after it got hijacked. The guys tried to steal the methadone truck, and all the patients chased it down the street, pulled the guy out of the truck, and beat him up, basically. Or, this is, I think I've lost it at this point, but there was always the piece about the dog, Mrs. So-and-so, who put, her bread dough down by the fireplace, and her beagle ate it, and the beagle blew up, and the beagle went down, and the vet said, well, it looks like the beagle's going to be okay. This was a story in the news. You don't see any of that anymore. Another thing I deeply, deeply miss is the fishing maps in the sports section. The New York Times used to show what fish were running and where in the harbor and the bays and things. What happened to that, huh? We still live here. I see people fishing all the time. Why isn't this news anymore? No, now the fucking New York Times, is responsible for ruining everything about any kind of neighborhood in New York the way the New York Magazine used to. And they think they are, hot shit on toast that people should be paying $25 a portion for. Yeah, they are. They're crazy and they're nutty, and I blame them for this whole responsibility after this quote unquote debate that took place with nobody there and just two people and these two old men, and the Times has been on Biden's ass ever since. Nothing about Trump, nothing about what he might have said, the fact that he lied so much up there. No, this was the fact that Joe was tired and he didn't really say things, and he made that big gaffe about Medicare or something. And non-stop, they've been on his ass. This whole story is theirs, and they have caused it. And I spit on them because of it. I'm so glad somebody came up with that meme that said, maybe it's time for the New York Times to step aside for a younger, smarter, and more, contemporary view on journalism. Because exactly, they have just gone after him. And why they would want to do that, I don't know. And yet at the same time, you're right, 3 days ago we had the editorial board going, Biden should step aside and somebody should do something. And then today comes out, well, Trump cannot possibly, lead this country because, he's not appropriate person to do so for whatever fucking reasons they're coming up to say that he's not. Where have they been? I mean, if you want to look at stuttering old stupid men, all you have to do is watch a couple of, watch some Fair and Balanced, or a couple other people who will show you equally that, Trump is out there, blah, blah, blah. He can't remember names. He thinks he ran against Biden. He thinks he ran against Obama. The name of the doctor who gave him this great cognitive test, who's in Congress, whose name he's constantly getting wrong. No. We're not talking about that. No. Trump. The only thing they talk about is, Trump still has this magnet. Who's gonna Trump? And they're just sort of, I think they're afraid that if he does become president, that he's gonna shut them down right away. So now they're trying to, as we've seen all these people do, ingratiate themselves to him, in case that turns out to be the case, which exactly, God forbid, it shouldn't. What they've opened is now this floodgate of what do we do, because exactly, this has never been an instance before. And instead of standing up behind him, I'm speaking about, Sleepy Joe. I don't even care. I'm sleepy all the time, man. And I'm only 65. God bless him. He's still there trying to do this. And exactly as people say, if nothing else, maybe he's not always all there all the time, but he's surrounded by people who we can trust and hope will keep the best intentions in the forefront. And last but not least, here are our Democrats now. Here's Nancy Pelosi kind of, wringing her hands, going, well, if he's going to make a decision, he should make it soon. And, why aren't you backing this man? The DNC was all behind him. We weren't given a choice. This is the election where basically both parties made up their minds way before anyone even had a chance to vote. And I'm sorry, but Democrats especially, this happened with Hillary. You announce that this is the candidate that is going to win, and you're wrong. So now we all threw ourselves, the DNC anyway, behind this candidate. And now suddenly everybody's wringing their hands and going, oh, what should we do? What should we do? Where were the debates? Where were the other candidates before? You had an excellent opportunity to bring up somebody who might be a little more interesting, maybe a little more progressive, maybe a little more age appropriate to go up against Donald Trump, who was basically a babbling baboon in diapers. And it's hard to have any compassion, because guess who set us up for this situation? The DNC, yet once again. And the RNC. They didn't give anybody on that side a chance either. They decided that this had to be a rehash of the last election because everyone claimed it wasn't fair, and forget it. Trump's already said, well, I'll accept the results, if I win.